Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to our summer campaign of Arkham Horror, the card game, where we're playing through the Circle Undone campaign. Last week in the Wages of Sin, we basically picked up a sharp stick in the eye as we got another physical trauma for Agnes and no experience. Let's hope this week's scenario goes a little better, or the summer campaign is I'm either going to wrap the summer campaign, or we'll bring in some new investigators for the campaign. But let's get into this week's scenario for the greater good. And we'll start on that once I get my phone configured here by setting the scene. Here we go.
Scenario 5 for the greater good. Intro 1. Ever since your brush with death at Hangman's Hill, the situation in Arkham has only worsened. In the days since, there have been more reports of ghost sightings and even several more disappearances. A thin layer of gray mist lingers over the streets at all hours, day and night. As soon as the sun begins to set each evening, doors are shut and locked. Without truly realizing why, very few people dare venture out at night. Some businesses have even closed their doors to customers during the day, citing poor weather. Things are getting out of hand. Check campaign log. If the investigators are members of the Lodge, proceed to Intro 2. If the investigators are enemies of the Lodge, skip to Intro 3. If the investigators learned nothing of the Lodge's schemes, skip to Intro 4. If the investigators are never seen or heard from again, skip to Intro 5.
Alright, so checking the campaign log, we are enemies of the Lodge, so we want Intro 3.
Intro 3. The creature that appeared at the Lodge's charity gala is clearly not bound to Joseph Meiger's manor, which means the horror you've experienced could be just the start of something much worse. You're not sure why just yet, but you know the Silver Twilight Lodge is connected to the creature in some way. Perhaps it's time to pay the Lodge a visit, with or without their permission. Skip the setup.
Alright, so that's the scenario all set up. Again, we are enemies of the Lodge, so we'll have to deal with that. And that will also impact setup, which I'll talk a little more about when we move over to the map. So, with that done, let's go through the rest of our scenario setup, including opening hands, act, agenda, and the aforementioned starting map. So, we'll zoom out here, other out, and we'll take a look at Agnes's opening hand first. Unfortunately, Agnes did find one of her weaknesses. She found the Tower 16, and this one, as you recall, this is the one that I can't replace in my opening hand. It has to stay there. It's a 4 cost to play it, and I can't commit cards to skill test while it's in my hand. So it has to start in my opening hand. In better news, though, I mostly like the rest of my opening hand. The one card I'm not particularly happy to see is the copy of Hypnotic Gaze. I'd probably be happier to see this with a copy of Eldritch Inspiration in my hand, but we may be able to dig for that once you'll see why I'm a little happier with that card. We also have a copy of Ward of Protection. I found myself wishing I had this a lot in the last scenario. We also have a copy of Shriveling level 3, so we can definitely get our fight on right away. And we might. And we have a copy of Arcane Initiate. As you have seen, we've used this to great effect the entire campaign. So, yeah, we'll be able to use that to dig for spells. I will get the ladies their resources. 5 for Carolyn. 5 for Agnes. And then let's go into Carolyn's opening hand. So the problem we had with Carolyn was an inability to defend herself. I'd say this scenario, she should be able to defend herself very well. We have a level 0 copy of Shriveling to start with. I'll go through these more when I actually play them. We have her copy of Occult Lexicon, which will let us go get Blood Right, and we might grab that right off the bat. We also have Emergency Aid, which could be handy for healing Agnes's starting physical trauma. Pathfinder level 1, which solved her mobility problems very nicely. And Logical Reasoning, which will let us do some horror healing, but again, I'll go through that more when I play it. Now let's take a look at our starting agenda and act. So we'll start off with Agenda 1A, the Hierophant 5. Adapt your beliefs and be open to new truths. You are expected to conform. Do not stray from the path. Forced. When you defeat a Silver Twilight enemy, You leave behind some evidence of the scuffle. Move one doom from each enemy at that location to the current agenda. So this could move very fast if we're not careful. And our starting act... Act 1A, infiltrating the lodge. The lodge is up to something, you're sure of it. You're not sure exactly what their plans entail, but your suspicions have proven correct so far. You have decided to sneak into the lodge's manor in French Hill to learn what they are plotting. As a reaction, after you evade an enemy, remove all doom from it, and we need 4 clues to advance. The starting act also changes based on what our membership status with the lodge. If we would have been members of the lodge, we would have used a different act and constructed the encounter deck a little bit differently. But we'll see more on that later. Now, we'll go ahead and move over to the map. Agnes and Carolyn will move with us to their starting location. We're over here at the map. As you can see, we have 5 locations to start with. As per usual, I'll go through each one once we move to it or it becomes relevant. So right now, Agnes and Carolyn are starting up top and shot at the lodge gates. Let's take a look at the lodge gates. Lodge gates, members only. This is what I was talking about earlier about having to use different versions of the location. Again, if we were members of the lodge, we'd have used something different. As you approach the gates of the lodge's manor in French Hill, you're surprised to see several automobiles parked nearby on the street. Light shines in several of the windows of the manor. Is there a gathering of some sort here tonight? Uh-oh. Alright, this reveals into... Shroud of 2 clues. Enemies can't spawn at the lodge gates. As an action, resign. On second thought, maybe coming here was a bad idea. The headquarters of the Silver Twilight Lodge is a gorgeous Victorian mansion in French Hill, overlooking most of the city. Light flickers beyond its prominent stained glass door. Alright, I'll get the 2 clues for that. Which, conveniently enough, and not at all coincidental, that's relevant to our connecting location. Lodge cellar. Members only. The rear entrance to the Silver Twilight Lodge is hidden. You can't enter the lodge cellar. Lodge gates gains action. Investigators at the lodge gates spend 1 per investigator or 2 clues as a group. Reveal the lodge cellar. Several windows along the basement level of the manor reveal the dark cellar within. Alright, so that will do it for our starting scenario setup. Now let's get this show on the road, and we'll start with Agnes as we move down to her play area. Here's Agnes. On an unrelated note, Carolyn is going to be our lead investigator for this scenario. So anything that happens to the lead investigator will happen to her. Anyway, action 1 for Agnes is going to be to spend 4 resources to get her Tower 16 out of her hand. Because I want to be able to commit cards to the test, and this is going to cause us a lot of problems the longer I let it stay in her hand. So we're going to get rid of that. Action 2, we're going to spend her last resource to play her Arcane Initiate. When it enters play, we have to put a doom on it. Again, as a fast action, we can exhaust Arcane Initiate to search the top 3 cards of our deck for a spell and draw it, and shuffle her deck. So we'll get the doom for that. There we are. Then we're immediately going to exhaust the Arcane Initiate coming out of her fast action, and search the top 3 cards for a spell. First up, we have Read the Signs, 2 costs to play, investigate will plus lore for this investigation, and can ignore any effect or keyword. And if you succeed, discover 1 additional clue. Spectral Razor. Ooh, that could be tempting too. It's basically Read the Signs except will is plus combat instead. And Eldritch Inspiration. I was hoping to see a Voice of Ra coming out of this, but I can't be picky. I think we're a little light on cluing right now, so I'm going to take Read the Signs, even though, well, I might actually have to play that this round, so we can get things moving. Give this a quick shuffle. I was hoping to find a voice of Ra so I could try to get her resource generation going, but I think getting the scenario moving is going to be just as important. Give that a cut. And then for action 3, we will play that read the signs that we just found, and I'm going to pay the alternative cost for it. So Agnes is going to take a damage. So I can reduce the cost by 2, and then shuffle it back into my deck to hopefully pull it back out with Arcane Initiate. So we're looking at a Shroud of 2. Agnes right now is at a 7, so we are up 5. A 0 gets us both clues. So that's very fortunate. And a good way to, well, I shouldn't say it's a good way to start, because this is the part where the game usually says, hold my, this, because that would be where the game would say, hold my beer. Anyway, that will do it for Agnes. Carolyn's action, our turn with Carolyn. Before we do that, I will shuffle this back into the deck since we paid the alternate cost for it. Sorry, a little stutter step there earlier. Then Carolyn's turn will take us over to her play area. Here's Carolyn. For action 1, we're going to pay 2 resources to heal Agnes, where is it? Here it is. To play Emergency Aid. Choose an investigator, add your location, heal 2 damage from that investigator or from an ally asset he or she controls. We're going to take two of the damage off of Agnes, so that'll bring her back down. That'll bring her down to 1 damage on her. That was action 1 for Carolyn. Action 2, we're going to spend Agnes's 2 clues. That is, as a group, yes. So as an action, we'll spend the 2 clues, if I can not go crazy with her second action token. We'll spend the 2 clues to reveal the Lodge Cellar. So let's see what we've got here. Shroud of 3, no clues. You slip through an unlocked window into the building's cellar. It contains only a large wine rack and several unmarked barrels. A heavy steel door bars your passage deeper into the basement. You almost don't want to know what lies beyond it. Almost. Then for action 3, we're going to spend Carolyn's last 3 resources, clear her out as well. And we're going to play a Pathfinder. During your turn, as a fast action, during your turn, if you're not engaged with any enemies, exhaust it to move to a connecting location. Searchers after horror hunt strange, far places. H.P. Lovecraft, The Picture in the House. And conveniently enough, we're going to exhaust that to move Carolyn down to this lodge cellar. That will do it for Carolyn and the investigation phase. Enemy phase, since it is the first round of the game, there are no enemies in play. Again, that rule will mostly hold true, but not always. Anyway, that will do it for the enemy phase. Now we'll reset everything. So we'll reset the minis. And the action tokens. Also the Arcane Initiate. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Each of our ladies will gain a resource and go to 1. Agnes will draw. Spectral Razor, okay. So fight is will plus combat. Carolyn draws. Deduction, so we can get her cluing on at last. There's her hand. I forgot to exhaust Pathfinder. But anyway, that will do it for the upkeep phase. Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 1, but we're at 2 Doom in play. Carolyn as lead investigator will draw. Evil Past. Revelation, put Evil Past into play in your threat area if there's no copy of it in your threat area. If there is, discard Evil Past and it gains Surge instead. Forced. When the encounter deck runs out of cards, take 2 Horror and test Will 3. If you succeed, discard Evil Past. Alright, Agnes draws. An Acolyte. It's go 3/1/2, spawn at any empty location. Humanoid Cultist, forced. After Acolyte enters play, place a Doom on it. It was only a small sacrifice. They all say that. We'll put that at the lobby. And for... we will... Now we're into the investigation phase. Actually, coming out of the Mythos phase after drawing her encounter card, Agnes will exhaust the Arcane Initiate to search the top 3 for a spell. Card 1 that we get to look at. Dread Curse. This can get bent. It is a curse, so I don't have to take it. Storm of Spirits. Fight. This attack uses will instead of lore. It's our AoE spell, is what it is. And for action, for card 3, Read the Signs. Probably the one that we took earlier. I'm going to take Read the Signs, just because our combat is a little... the combat is strong with our ladies right now in hand. We just got to get it on the board. But we need to get resources for that too. So that will do it for the investigation phase, or for the Mythos phase. After I finish giving this a shuffle. Oh boy. Yeah. We're already at 3 Doom in play, so that's going to be a problem. Our first investigator for this round will be... Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to do a setup round. It'll be Carolyn, but we're going to move over to the map. Alright, we're over here at the map. Before Carolyn takes her turn, I do want to mention one of the relevant connecting locations that we need to keep an eye on. Lodge Catacombs. The door to the catacombs is locked. You can't enter the Lodge Catacombs unless you control at least one Skull, Cultist, Rune, Elder Thing key. A windowless steel door blocks your way into paths unknown. You get the feeling this basement is much larger than it appears. So the keys it's talking about, as part of setup, you have to put aside one of each of the bat symbols except for the tentacle. So we have these keys set aside off camera. They represent keys in this scenario rather than cast tokens. So they'll do various things depending on what key you have. But I did want to just mention that real quick. Action 1 for Carolyn will be to take a resource. Action 2 will play her a copy of Occult Lexicon as we spend the resources. Limit 1 per deck. Forced. After Occult Lexicon enters play, search your bonded copies for 3 copies of Bloodright. Add 1 to your hand and shuffle the other 2 into your deck. When Occult Lexicon leaves play, find each of those copies of Bloodright, even if they're out of play, and remove them from the game. So we'll get to take our first look in this campaign at Bloodright. We're not going to be able to play it because, well, I'll get into that in a second. Anyway. So here's a copy of Bloodright. Will, Lore, Combat on Commit. It's bonded with the Occult Lexicon. Draw 2 cards, discard up to 2 cards from your hand. For each card thusly discarded, you may either gain a resource or spend 1 resource to deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So we'll shuffle the other 2 into the deck. So we could potentially use that to filter through the deck if we need to, but I don't think we need to right now. So we'll finish shuffling the other copies of Bloodright in. And then action 3 will be to take a resource. That will do it for Carolyn's turn. Agnes's turn is going to be very simple. So action 1 is going to be to move down. Actions 2 and 3 are going to be to take resources so I can set up for next turn. That will do it for the investigation phase. I'll flip over Agnes's mini. Enemy phase, the Acolyte is not a hunter, so that's a relief. Now we'll start resetting everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Carolyn will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Agnes will gain 1 resource and go to 4. Carolyn draws. Hallowed Mirror. This might be even more welcome than the Occult Lexicon was. After it enters play, search your bonded cards for 3 copies of Soothing Melody. Add 1 to your hand and shuffle the other 2 into your deck. When it's basically got the same, it's the same clause as Occult Lexicon, but with different cards. Agnes draws. Voice of Ra. I needed this a turn ago, but I can use it now. Hopefully. Mythos phase now. Doom on the agenda goes up to 2, but we're at 4 in play. Anyway, we've put our second Doom up on the agenda, but we're at 4 Doom in play because of the Arcane Initiate and the Acolyte, which the Acolyte's going to need to bite it. Carolyn draws. Centuries of Secrets. Test Will 5. For each point you fail by, discard the top card of the encounter deck. If a Cursed Treachery is discarded by this effect, deal 1 direct damage to your investigator and each of your ally assets. Perhaps their mysteries are better left unknown. Yuck. Alright, we are down to... I think we'll use Logical Reasoning to get to even. Does Agnes have anything she wants to commit? She... does not. I want to hold on to everything in her hand. So, Carolyn is at even. Skull can't be good. Skull is minus X, where X is the highest number of Doom on a cultist in play. Cultist enemy in play. Which, fortunately, that's 1, so we fail by 1, which means we discard the top card of the encounter deck. Just the top 1. Which means we discard... Locked Door. Attached to a location with the most clues and without a locked door attached to it. I'll go through that when we draw it, if we draw it later. For now, I'm happy to see it go away. Agnes draws. Knight of the Inner Circle. Spawn at any location connected to yours. 4/4/2. Humanoid... Okay, so humanoid cultist Silver Twilight. Prey most of the keys controlled. Alert aloof hunter. Forced. After you enter Knight of the Inner Circle's location or vice versa, test Will 4. If you fail, Knight of the Inner Circle engages you. Oh boy. Alright, so alert means if you fail an evade test, it'll attack you. Aloof means it doesn't engage right away unless we fail the agility test, which is going to be highly likely, unfortunately. Hunter, we've seen that before. I will spawn that. Any location connected to yours. So I can't spawn enemies at the lodge gates. It means it either has to be the lobby or the lodge catacombs. I'm going to put it in the lodge catacombs. Alright, and then coming out of Agnes's encounter card, we're going to do our Arcane Initiate ritual. Search the top 3 for a spell. First card up. Storm of Spirits, which might be a tempting option to take now that the enemies are starting to swarm up. Second card. 4 of Cups. I actually didn't mind seeing this not seeing this at the start of the game, but I can't take it here. Third card. Rite of Equilibrium. I primarily added this to counter her Dread Curse, but the Arcane Initiate is actually making that be not that big a problem. So I think just because the AoE potential is going to start causing problems, I'm going to take Storm of Spirits here. Like I said, though, that Acolyte really needs to bite it soon. So we'll give that shuffle. And a cut. And then as we move into the investigation phase, let's see what Carolyn's going to do about dealing with the... Oh, let's put that in Agnes's hand. We'll move into the investigation phase now, and we'll see what Carolyn can do with dealing with that Acolyte. We're over here at the map. As you can see here, I did spawn the Knight of the Inner Circle down at the Lodge Catacombs. So, yeah. So he's down there. He'll be looking for either one of us. But, anyway. I know what you're thinking. Carolyn, deal with any enemies? In this case, she can. And in fact, for Action 1, we're going to move her over to the lobby. I'll have to wait for that. The Acolyte will make friends with Carolyn, and then the lobby will reveal to become... Shroud of 3, 2 clues. Forced. After the lobby is revealed, place one random set-aside key on it. The interior of the mansion is clean and well-kept, as you would expect from Arkham's most prestigious social club. Plaques, pictures, and other trinkets adorn the wooden walls, hinting at the lodge's long and storied history. So let's get the 2 clues for that. There we are. And we have to put a set-aside key on it. So I'm going to grab a D4. Alright. I read these from the bottom. Okay. So 1 will be the skull, 2 will be the cultist, 3 will be the rune, and 4 will be the elder thing. That is a 2, so we put the cultist key on the lobby. Now, the way we can get that key is by discovering the clues at the location. But that was Carolyn's Action 1. Action 2 will be her blood right. So we'll go ahead, draw 2 cards, discard up to 2 cards from your hand. For each card you discard, you may either gain a resource or spend 1 resource to deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location, and this doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. So, first card we draw. Fingerprint Kit, okay. It's a 3-charge deduction as we've seen before. And Liquid Courage. Alright, so I think we will go ahead and discard... We will discard both of the cards that we just... I'm going to discard Liquid Courage, actually. Then I'm going to spend 1 resource to deal 1 damage to the Acolyte, which will take him out. But because the Force... Oh no, the Acolyte actually is not a Silver Twilight enemy, so never mind. Doom does not move to the agenda. Action 3, we will investigate. And I'm going to commit deduction to go up 2. If we succeed, we get 1 additional clue at the location, which will empty it. Then as a fast action, Carolyn can take the cultist key. Right? Let me double check that. Yes, can take it as a fast action. Alright, so up 2. Rune is... Oh, jeez. Rune is -3. If you fail, place a Doom on the nearest cultist enemy. Unfortunately, we did fail, which means we put the Doom right back up on the Knight of the Inner Circle. That's unfortunate. And we'll exhaust Pathfinder to move down to the lounge. Let's see what's down here. First, the flavor text. As you approach the staircase leading to the 2nd floor of the mansion, you smell burning candle wax. It is quiet enough that you can hear the gentle crinkling of a page being turned. Uh-oh. Shroud of 2, 4 clues. Forced. After the lounge is revealed, put the set-aside vault and library locations into play. Put the set-aside August Lindquist asset into play in the lounge. Place one random set-aside key on him. As you enter the warm lounge, you spot an elegantly dressed man reading by the fire. To your surprise, he pays you almost no heed whatsoever. So let's get the 4 clues first. Oop, one too many. 3, 4. Put the set-aside vault and library locations into play. I will grab... I'm going to move this up a little bit just so I can make myself a little more room. And our connections are... Okay. So it looks like I also need 2 more connecting arrows. We'll go here and here. Okay. So let's take a look at the... We'll take a look at the locations first. Alright. So, the library. A narrow, windowless hallway slopes upward from the lounge, leading you to a tall wooden door. And then the vault. The door to the vault is locked. You can't enter the vault unless you control the Elder Thing key. A heavy wooden door with an iron barred window appears to lead into a small vault. It is sealed shut from prying eyes. Right, August Lindquist goes into play at the lounge. Pays us no heed. And then we put a random set-aside key on him. So I'm actually going to get some dice so I can remember how I got this set up. So 2 was the cultist, but that's now gone. That's now in play at the... up in the lobby where Carolyn couldn't get to it. So 3 for the rune, 4 for the Elder Thing. Alright, so now 2 is a reroll. That's a 1, so August has the skull key on him. Anyway, that will do it for Carolyn's turn. Agnes, for action 1, will move over to the lobby. Then action 2... What was action 1? Action 2, she's going to use her Voice of Ra. We're going to see if we can't get those clues off the location. So gain 1 resource and then reveal 3 random tokens from the bag. For each bad symbol, gain an additional 2. Okay, we got these 3. And... okay, we get an additional 2 resources. So that will bring Agnes up to 7. And then for action 3, we will spend 2 of those resources. I don't want to be taking damage willy-nilly if I can avoid it. To play Read the Signs, we'll see if Agnes can rip those clues off the location where Carolyn couldn't. Agnes is up 4, trying to get them. Skull is -X, where X is the highest number of doom on a cultist in play. So we do succeed, and Agnes gets the clues off the location, and she's the one who actually gets to pull the key off of the location. So we get the cultist key onto Agnes. I'll put that over here. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the Knight of the Inner Circle hunts, moving up to the lodge cellar with the doom on him. I'll get that out of the way. Then with the end of the enemy phase, I'll start resetting everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Carolyn will gain 1 resource, go to 2. Agnes will gain 1 resource, go to 6. Carolyn draws. First Aid. Uses 3 supplies. If it has no 8 supplies, discard it. As an action, spend 1 supply to heal 1 damage or horror from an investigator at your location. Agnes draws. Dread Curse. We avoided this earlier, but we can't duck it now, so we have to add 5 curse tokens to the bag. That's going to cause us problems. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 curses going in. Oop, there we go. Okay. So there are 5 curses going into the bag. Fantastic. Alright, Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 3, but we're at 5 in play. Carolyn draws. Ancient Evils. Revelation, place 1 Doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. Dark forces stir against you. If you don't act quickly, a sinister plot will be fulfilled. So Doom goes up to 6. Before I draw Agnes's Encounter card, I do want to stop and explain what that means for my non-Arkham playing audience. So normally in the Mythos phase, Doom only checks to advance after you put Doom on the agenda. In the case of Ancient Evils and Dark Memory, which is Agnes's character weakness, they have a clause on there that says this effect can cause the current agenda to advance. So normally when you put Doom out in play, like if we were to draw another Acolyte, which that's rhetorical, not hold my beer. Anyway, if we were to put a Doom out from like an Acolyte, if we go over the Doom threshold, that wouldn't cause the agenda to advance. But if a card has that clause, and there are several in the game that do, you would advance if you cross the Doom threshold. So, now that I've cleared that up, Agnes draws. Expulsion. If there are no cultist enemies in play, it gains Surge. Unfortunately, there is one. Oh dear. Otherwise, the nearest cultist enemy readies, moves 1 location until it moves one location at a time until it reaches your location, engages you, and makes an immediate attack. Then place each symbol key you control on that enemy. So let's move over to the map. Unfortunately, our nearest cultist enemy is the Knight of the Inner Circle. So he's actually going to ready, move to her location. So he's going to move into the lobby, make friends with Agnes, and then make an immediate attack, which is going to hit her for 2 damage. Which is rather unfortunate, but there's really nothing we can do about that. And then we also lose the cultist key, which is going on the Knight of the Inner Circle. Yeah, okay, so that's the only bad thing there. Well, not that getting hit for 2 damage isn't necessarily fun, but anyway. Coming out of Agnes's Encounter card, we'll do our Arcane Initiate Ritual. Top 3 for a spell. Card 1. Arcane Studies, I can't take that. It's a skill dump for Will and Lore. Drawn to the Flame, I wish I could take that, but I can't. And Spectral Razor. I probably would have taken Spectral Razor anyway, but now I'm really going to take it, because now I have to take it because it's the only spell. It's the only spell available, and I probably would have taken it anyway. But I feel like an idiot now. You know what? I just realized that I could have canceled that, but I'm not going to rewind that. But anyway, I have a Ward of Protection in my hand. I probably should use it on stuff like that. But anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. The investigation phase will start We'll start with Agnes, and we'll move down to her play area once I finish getting this shuffle on. So we'll drop down to Agnes's play area. Okay, so we need to get that key back. Action 1, we're going to spend 2 resources and shove a ghost knife somewhere. Probably a spectral razor, a ghost knife somewhere it probably shouldn't go. So we are going to be up 3, trying to do... Ooh, we do get to do 3 damage if we hit. I will commit Hypnotic Gaze for the combat icon and go up 4. You can see the combat icon up there, so up 4. Rune is -3 if you fail, place a doom on the nearest cultist enemy. Fortunately, we don't fail. So 3 damage on the Knight of the Inner Circle. Then for action 2, I'm going to run that back with another Ghost Knife. Another Spectral Razor. Unfortunately, I'm only up 3 this time, but I'm trying to take that Knight of the Inner Circle out so I can get the key back. A 0 takes the Knight of the Inner Circle out, gives us the key back, but it also moves a doom up to the agenda, so we're up to 5 on the agenda. Then for action 3, we'll move down to the lounge. That will do it for Agnes. Carolyn's turn will also take us over to her play area. For Carolyn's action 1, she's going to pay 2 resources to play her copy of Hallowed Mirror. So we get to go get our Soothing Melodies and add those to her deck as well. So we'll take a look at our first look at Soothing Melody in this campaign. 0 cost to play, Will, Lore, and Agility on commit, bonded with Hallowed Mirror, heal 2 damage or 2 horror or any combination thereof from among investigators and or ally assets at your location, draw 1 card. So I'm going to finish shuffling the deck, but Soothing Melody is almost certainly going to be Carolyn's action 2. I will take a fresh look at her hand with that, but unless something changes, that will be her action 2. At which point I will take another shot at the French on there with my horrific French-speaking talents. Alright, there's our cut. Take a fresh look at her hand. Yep. Alors chanson se mêle au clair de lune. Au calme clair de lune triste et beau. Paul Verlaine, Clair de Lune. Yeah. You can feel free to yell at me for my horrific French in the chat. My French is, oh God, it's got to be, God, it's almost 20 years old. That makes me feel so old. Anyway, Agnes will heal 2 of her damage. Because we didn't heal horror on that, we don't get the resource from that. But Carolyn does get to draw a card. She gets to draw. Wow, some pleasure to drawing the sign. Pact Madness. Revelation, put drawing the sign into play in your threat area. Your maximum hand size is reduced by 5 while checking during the upkeep phase. During the upkeep phase. 2 actions to discard it. Fantastic. Alright, so I'm losing one of these, it looks like. Then for action 3, Carolyn will gain a resource. Actually, no. Carolyn's not going to gain a resource. She is going to investigate, and we're up 2. -2 gets her a clue. We'll need those a little later to try to get the skull key off of August Lindquist. But anyway, that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we took out the only enemy in play. We're actually at 6 Doom right now. I forgot about the Arcane Initiate. But we will go ahead and reset everything. I never flipped over Agnes's third... Oh, because I was over at the map. Anyway, we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Carolyn will gain one resource and go to 1. Agnes will gain 1 resource and go to 3. Carolyn will draw. Another fingerprint kit. We do have to discard something, though, because we have drawing the sign out. So I'm going to discard her copy of First Aid. And Agnes draws. Hypnotic Gaze. This cancels an attack, then reveal a token from the bag. If you pull a bad symbol, deal the attacking enemy's damage to itself. Okay, Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 6, but we're at 7 because of the Arcane Initiate. Carolyn will draw. Yeah, Carolyn will draw. Mysteries of the Lodge. Place 1 Doom on the nearest cultist enemy. Then, until the end of the round, increase the difficulty to fight, evade, or parley with that enemy by 2. If no Doom is placed by this effect, Mysteries of the Lodge gains Surge. Agnes on the nearest cultist enemy. August Lindquist is not a cultist enemy, so we don't place any Doom because the only cultist we had was Knight of the Inner Circle, which means that gains Surge. So Carolyn instead draws. Another Acolyte. We'll put it in an empty location. Where are we sending Agnes next turn? I think we gotta send her to the library, so we'll spawn it there. We'll put a Doom on the cultist. Agnes draws. Cellkeeper. 3/3/2. Spawn any Sanctum location. Alert. Forced. After Keeper enters play, place 2 Doom and 1 random set-aside key on it. Forced. When you evade Cellkeeper by 2 or more, take control of its key and it does 2 horror on attack. So any Sanctum location would be the Lodge Catacombs. And we need to put a set-aside key on it. Unfortunately, we only have the Rune and Elder Thing keys left. So we might be rolling for a while here. Never mind, that's a 3, so we put the Rune key on it. That's rather unfortunate, but we'll have to deal with that. Anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation... Oh, we need 2 Doom for the Cellkeeper as well. So there's the 2 Doom for the Cellkeeper, which means we're definitely advancing this round, and I don't think there's any way we can stop it unless we can kill both of those enemies, which... I don't think we're going to be able to. Because I need to get rid of Carolyn's drawing the sign. I'll have to have a think on this one. But the investigation phase will be next. I think we'll have to start with... we'll actually start with... Oh boy. I think we're going to start with Agnes, and we're going to... Oh! Before I go into the investigation phase, I almost forgot. Ritual with the Arcane Initiate. First card, I'll get that D4 out of the way now that I no longer need it. First card up. Come on, focus. Let me move over here, see if that does any better. There we go. Right of equilibrium. Okay, so either choose one. Add X curse tokens to the cast bag to add X bless tokens to the bag. Or remove X curse and X bless tokens to heal X total horror from among cards at your location. That's tempting because we can get some of those curses out. Read the signs, also tempting because we need to rip some of these clues off the location. Or Clairvoyance, which is another clue-verse spell, but we're miles away from playing that. I think we're going to take Read the Signs right now. Just because we need a surefire way to get clues. And I can deal with the curses in the... I hopefully can deal with the curses in the bag. Hopefully they're not going to turn the screws on us, but that will do it for the investigation, or the Mythos phase. I'll get the phase right one of these days. Investigation phase now. Our first investigator will be Agnes, and her turn will take us over to the map. Once I finish shuffling all this up. Alright, here's Agnes. Action 1, we're going to spend actually, we're going to pay the cost, the alternative cost, for Read the Signs. So we're going up 5 to try to get 2 clues off the location. Curse, which means we're up 3 and we have to draw again. -1 gets us 2 clues, and it gets us a curse token out of the bag. Which, that part's very welcome. Then action 2, then we'll shuffle Read the Signs back in to the deck. Action 2, we'll go ahead and spend all 4 of Agnes's clues. And she will take a... She'll take a damage, because she's the only one spending clues here, to remove August from the game and take control of the Skull Key. Alright, so he's removed from the game. Then for action 3... For action 3, we will pay 3 to play your copy of Shriveling Level 3. As an action, spend a charge to fight. This attack uses will instead of combat. +2 will and deal +1 damage for the attack. If you pull a bad symbol, take a horror. So we'll get the 4 charges for that. That's action 3 for Agnes. For Carolyn, action 1 will be to investigate. She's up 2 trying to get that last clue. Tentacle touched, fantastic. Action 2 will take a resource so I can open up my options for next turn. Oh no, actually actions 2 and 3 are going to be to discard drawing the sign because I needed that gone. Anyway, that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the only enemy is our Cell Keeper, and he's not a hunter. So yeah, that's rather unfortunate. But anyway, the Acolyte, actually we have the Acolyte too, but he's not a hunter either. So we'll reset everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Carolyn will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Agnes will gain 1 resource and go to 1. Carolyn will draw a copy of Bloodright. Okay, that'll be handy. We'll probably need that later. We'll probably need that very soon. Agnes draws. Eldritch Inspiration. Okay, this lets you cancel or resolve an additional bad effect from a bad symbol. But we're into the Mythos phase now, and the agenda is advancing. Meeting of Minds. As you explore the building, you almost wander into a heated debate between several members of the lodge in a nearby hallway. Seeing an opportunity to learn more, you hide more and eavesdrop on the conversation. Mr. Sanford's orders are to complete the Geist trap at any cost, one of them says firmly. If that means we must put lives in danger, so be it. The good of the many outweigh the good of the few. You know this. Another member, a woman, pounds her fist on the wall. No, our first resort cannot be to spill blood. There must be another way. There is no time, the other responds, and there is a murmur of agreement among the rest. It is clear that you do not have the will to proceed. Take her away. We will make her see for herself the sacrifices that must be made for the greater good. No, you can't do this, the woman yells. You wince as her screams echo down the corridor. What are they planning to do? What do you think they're planning to do? Are they planning to play tiddlywinks with her? They're not planning to play tiddlywinks. Discard the top 5 cards of the encounter deck. In player order, each investigator must draw a cultist enemy discarded this way. Oh dear. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we discard the top 5, and each investigator must draw a cultist. Alright, so first card up. Beneath the Lodge. Oh boy. Okay. So that's not a cultist. Card 2. Also not a cultist, thank God. This is a cultist, though. We just killed him earlier. Not a cultist. And not a cultist. So we have to spawn the Knight of the Inner Circle. And this is before we even draw encounter cards. So we will spawn him at the... any location connected to yours. We'll spawn him in the vault. Let's take a look at our new agenda. Agenda 2A, Ends and Means. The Lodge will resort to drastic measures in order to achieve their goals. If you don't act quickly, blood will surely be shed. Each Silver Twilight enemy in a Sanctum location loses aloof, and the same forced clause that we had earlier. We need 10 Doom to advance that. Carolyn draws. Ancient Evils, so we're already starting down 1. That's fantastic. Agnes draws. Well, the only bright spot of that is now Ancient Evils is completely out of the encounter deck. So, yeah. So we're already starting down 2 Doom, and the problem's only going to get worse. But coming out of the Mythos phase, we'll do our Arcane Initiate Ritual. 1, 2, 3. First card up. Voice of Ra, we are desperate for resources right now, but we might not have time. Drawn to the Flame, I wish I could take this. And Ace of Rods. The only spell I have available to me is Voice of Ra, so yeah, I have to take that. Alright. Alright. Anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase next. Our first investigator will be Agnes, and her turn will take us over to the map. Here's Agnes right here in shot. Action 1, we're going to bring her down to the library. I've got to... actually, that Acolyte isn't doing anything right now. So... yeah, I think we're actually going to leave him, and I'm going to go try to deal with this... Actually, no, I am going to bring her down to the library. We still need to find the Elder Thing key. So we'll make friends with the Acolyte, and then we'll take a look at the library. A narrow, windowless hallway slopes upward from the lounge, leading you to a tall wooden door. This flips over into Shroud of 6, 2 clues. While you are investigating the library, if you control the rune key, the library gets -3 Shroud. Even the Lodge's library is arranged to showcase the organization's wealth and power. There are hundreds of books among the room's tall, cramped shelves. Victory 1. So we'll get the 2 clues for that. That was action 1. Action 2, we'll use a charge of Shriveling on the Acolyte. We're at 7 to 3. We're up 4. Trying to take it out. Skull is -X, where X is the highest number of Doom on a cultist in play. Right now we have no Doom out because we just advanced the agenda. So the Acolyte is dead. Then for action 3, we are going to take a resource. That will do it for Agnes. Carolyn will investigate for action 1. I forgot to put Voice of Ra on her hand. So, yeah. Which I should have used Voice of Ra for my resources instead of just taking a resource, but I forgot I had that in my hand, so I'm not going to rewind that. Carolyn will investigate. She's up 2. -1 gets her the last clue. Then as a fast, I'll use Pathfinder to move her up to the lobby. Action 2, I will take a resource. And then action 3, I'll spend those resources to play out her own copy of Shriveling. So this is basically a weaker version of what Agnes is using right now. She uses Will instead of combat and deals +1 damage. I'll get the 4 charges for Shriveling. Alright, 4 charges of Shriveling. Alright, that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase are hunter enemy moves, so the Knight of the Inner Circle moves up to the lounge. The Cell Keeper is not an enemy, is not a hunter, so we'll start resetting everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Carolyn will gain 1 resource and go to 1. Agnes will gain 1 and go to 3. Agnes will draw. Rite of Equilibrium. We saw this earlier. We found this a couple times with the Arcane Initiate, but we didn't take it. We have to draw it this time. Carolyn draws. Another copy of Shriveling. Okay. Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 3. Carolyn draws. Oh, wrong deck. From the encounter deck. Carolyn draws. Call to order. Find the 2 topmost cultist enemies in the discard pile and spawn them in the empty location with the most remaining clues. If no cultist enemies are spawned by this effect, call to order gains surge. Oh dear. Find the 2 topmost cultist enemies in the discard pile and spawn them in the empty location with the most remaining clues. So the empty location with the most remaining clues, they're all tied for 0. So to Carolyn, that would be the Lodge Cellar. So we get the the Cultist and the Knight of the Inner Circle. We get the Acolyte and the Knight of the Inner Circle. So the Acolyte gets a Doom on him. And then we have the Knight of the Inner Circle back yet again. Agnes draws. Mysterious Chanting. Place 2 Doom on the nearest cultist enemy. Oh, let's take a look here. So 3, 4... Now that I'm actually paying attention and I'm not being an idiot, I'm actually going to remember to ward this. Because this puts us up to 6 Doom and could very easily make the scenario go sideways, but I think it's already going sideways enough. So I'm going to pay the 1 resource to ward that. I'll take a horror from it, but we don't need to be putting more Doom out right now. And then coming out of the Mythos phase, we'll do our Arcane Initiate ritual. Card 1. Drawn to the Flame. Ugh, that hurts. Card 2. Drawn to the Flame. You've got to be kidding me. Card 3. Shriveling. That could have gone a whole lot worse. Shriveling being the only spell available. I was getting alarmed that was going to be a Dark Memory for a second, because if you remember, I did actually have a situation in the last scenario where I stopped and explained what was going on with that. Just to kind of clarify that, yeah, if the Dark Memory is the only spell I have, I can take it. I can take it with Arcane Initiate. If it's the only spell, I have to take it. But anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. The Investigation phase is up next, and we got to start off with Agnes over at the map. We're over here with Agnes. We're in a very bad way, though. We are very surrounded, and we might be looking at the end of the campaign here. So, yeah. Action 1. Oh, dear. Action 1 is going to be to draw a card. Agnes will draw. 4 of Cups, Chalice of the Heart, +1 will. The beginning of the game clause wasn't relevant. Action 2, I was hoping to find a Drawn to the Flame there where I could actually take it. Action 2 will be to move to the Knight of the Inner Circle. This is a very, very reckless plan, but we're going to try it anyway. Then to try to move, I've got a little bit of a plan here. So I'm going to commit Hypnotic Gaze and Rite of Equilibrium to get up 1, trying to stay unengaged. A 0 means I get to stay unengaged, thankfully. And then action 3, I'll move up here, up to the lobby. That will do it for Agnes. Carolyn is going to do a little bit... Actually, Carolyn's going to get herself ready for next round as well. So, Carolyn is going to take a resource. Actually, Carolyn's going to take a resource for action 1. She's going to draw a card for action 2. Carolyn draws. Scene of the crime. Play only as your first action. Discover 1 clue at your location, 2 instead if there's an enemy. This action doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. Action 3 will take another resource. That will do it for the investigation phase. In the enemy phase, the Knights of the Inner Circle both move, and they have prey directions. With most keys controlled, they're both looking for Agnes. Now, they've moved during the hunt, during the enemy phase, so they've both entered our location. So we're going to test for this Knight of the Inner Circle first. It is an agility 4. Agnes is down 1. I have nothing I can commit to it. Carolyn is likewise unhelpful, so down 1. +1 means this one stays unengaged. Let's see about this one. Still down 1, still no agility to be able to commit. A 0 means he engages, and then he'll immediately attack Agnes for 2 damage and go back to being aloof on the location. And that will do it for the enemy phase. We'll go ahead and reset everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Carolyn gains 1 resource and goes up to 4. Agnes gains 1 resource, goes up to 3. Agnes draws. Clairvoyance, which is basically shriveling but for clues. Carolyn, for investigating clues. Carolyn draws. Hawkeye folding camera. This thing's a little late to the party, but anyway. Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 4. We're at 5 in play because of the Acolyte. Carolyn draws. Mark of the Order. Oh dear. Okay, Surge. Check which investigator controls each key. The investigator with... The only relevant keys here are the Skull and the Cultist keys, but those are both problematic enough. So Agnes takes 1 and 1 from that card. And then because of Surge, this is still Carolyn's card. So Carolyn draws. Expulsion. You've got to be kidding me. If there are no cultist enemies in play, it gains Surge. Otherwise, the nearest cultist enemy readies. Well, this might not be a terrible thing. Alright, so the nearest cultist enemy readies, moves 1 location at a time. Fortunately, we have 2 Knights of the Inner Circle there already. So one of them will make friends with Carolyn and hit her for 2 damage. As we'll grab... Oh, I'm looking for Carolyn's 2 damage. And then Carolyn doesn't actually control any keys, so that's somewhat helpful. Anyway, Agnes draws. Another Acolyte. Spawn at any empty location and put a Doom out. Highly, highly disgusting. But this is where the reckless plan might come into play. So that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase will be up next, and we'll have Carolyn go first, and we'll start at her play area. We can get Carolyn out of this. We can get everybody out of this, but Carolyn needs to play her part right now in 2 ways. Well, there's one of 2 ways I can get out of this. So I'm going to start off with action 1 with a Rite of Seeking. Or not with Rite of Seeking, with Blood Rite. Draw 2 cards, discard up to 2 cards from your hand. For each card you discard, you can either gain a resource or spend 1 resource to deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. Attacks of opportunity can get bent. Looking at the discard pile, unfortunately I have 1 copy left of Blood Rite, but I have to I have to draw it right here. Is basically the situation I'm in. So, first card up. Emergency aid. That's not particularly helpful. And Eureka. That might be helpful. We'll probably need that in a second here. So, I will discard both my copies of Fingerprint Kit, because right now I'm trying to get out of this. I'll deal 2 damage to the Knight of the Inner Circle that's not engaged to anybody. I can target any, right? Yeah, to an enemy at your location, so engagement does not matter. So there's the 2 damage that I'll put on the Knight of the Inner Circle. Then for action 2, I'll pop a charge of Shriveling into the Knight of the Inner Circle that's engaged with Carolyn right now. This Eureka that I just drew will bring her to even. I will use the Hawkeye folding camera to go up 1. Right now I'm trying to get out of this situation. That's the first step here. Does Agnes have any will she wants to commit? Yeah, I will give her Eldritch Inspiration, which is basically a dead card without Hypnotic Gaze in hand. So Carolyn is up 2. -2, thank God. Alright, so Knight of the Inner Circle has 2 damage on it as well. And Carolyn gets to search the top 3 cards of her deck for a card, draw it, and shuffle her deck. And I forgot to do my ritual with Agnes, which I will in a second here for actions after coming out of Carolyn's action 3. Card 1, Book of Psalms. We may need that once we get out of this. Well, I'm assuming we do. Card 2, Deduction, might also be handy once we get out of this. And First Aid. So, I think we're going to take the... I think here we're going to take the Deduction. I think we'll need that later, assuming we get out of this, but I don't like our odds of that. Let's see. Wait a minute. Let me think what my actions were. Action 1 was Blood Rite. Action 2 was Shriveling. And action 3 will be to try to evade at even. I'm counting on this test. I'm actually counting on this test to fail. There's a reason why. I don't want to take an attack of opportunity for 2 damage, but on the same token, I'm trying to take a test that won't trigger an attack of opportunity, but that I'm likely to fail. Bad idea. I remembered the Knight of the Inner Circle has Alert. So if I fail an evade check, I will take the attack of opportunity. So I will take an attack anyway, so I'm going to try to punch it. Down 2. Curse. So right now my skill value is already 0. Rune, oh boy, is -3. If you fail, place a doom on the nearest cultist enemy. That resets my skill value to 0. So I do fail and place a doom on the engaged Knight of the Inner Circle. So we are now at 1, 2, 3, 7 doom. Anyway, that will do it for Carolyn. Agnes, so coming out of that fast window, I'm going to use the top 3. I'm going to use the Arcane Initiate for Agnes. Card 1, Heirloom of Hyperborea. I can't take that. Card 2, Clairvoyance. And card 3, Eldritch Inspiration. I'm going to take Clairvoyance here. Just because, like I said, Eldritch Inspiration is basically a dead card when I don't have Hypnotic Gazes available to me. Anyway, that will do it for Carolyn. Agnes's turn will take us down to her play area. We're in a very precarious position here, because if this misfires, there's a high chance that the scenario and the campaign are both going to be over here. So, this was the plan I had. 3 resources, and we're going to play Storm of Spirits. So this is our AoE spell. We're going to aim at the... We can only aim at the Knight of the Inner Circle on Carolyn. So right now we're up 1. I'm going to commit Voice of Ra to bring her up 2. Does Carolyn have anything she wants to commit? She probably should if she can, but she can't. So the best I can do is up 2. Oh, joy. Rune is -3. If you fail, place a doom on the nearest cultist enemy. So, this very much misfired on me. I think that was the only... Oh, no, I had Clairvoyance in my hand that I could have committed. But I didn't, so we're going to face the consequences. Okay, so first, we pulled a bad symbol. We pulled a rune, so we deal 1 damage to each investigator at our location. This might have just ended the campaign. Ended the summer campaign. Alright. And then we failed. So because... I wonder how Storm of Spirits interacts with a fail. Does Agnes just bite it here and then Carolyn bite it on the... I gotta look that up. I'll be right back. Okay, so apologies for the delay. I had to look something up on Storm of Spirits, how it interacts with a fail. So actually, Clairvoyance I couldn't have committed... Oh no, Clairvoyance level 3 I could have committed to her test. But anyway, we're still facing the consequences. So we already dealt the damage from the rune coming out on the test. We now have to deal with the actual fail. So Carolyn does take 2 damage from that, which means she's 1 away from defeated by damage. Action 2, oh dear, this is going to be a very perilous turn. Shriveling, the only way we continue the summer campaign is if this works right now. So we've got to take this Knight of the Inner Circle out. We're up 1. I'm going to use the aforementioned Clairvoyance level 3. Because if this fails, the summer campaign's just over right now. So we're up 2. Skull is... Skull is -X, where X is the highest number of doom on a cultist enemy in play. Which, thank goodness that highest doom is 1. So the Knight of the Inner Circle is defeated, but Agnes does take another horror, so she is in a very bad way. So Agnes is also 1 damage from being defeated by damage. And then for action 3, I think she will... take a resource, I guess. Anyway, that will do it for the enemy phase. Or for the investigation phase, I should say. Enemy phase, nothing happens. So now we'll move all the way back up top for the upkeep phase. So actually we're already up top, so I'll just start resetting everything. And we'll go into the upkeep phase. So Carolyn will gain 1 resource, go to 5. Agnes will gain 1 resource, go to 2. Also reset the Arcane Initiate. Agnes draws. Drawn to the Flame, where were you like 3 turns ago? Carolyn draws. Another Pathfinder. That would have been handy a little while ago, too. Anyway, Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 5, but we're at 7 in play. Carolyn draws. Mysteries of the Lodge. Place 1 Doom on the nearest cultist enemy. Then until the end of the round, increase the difficulty to fight, evade, or parley with that enemy by 2. We'll place it on... Oh, we have to place it on the Knight of the Inner Circle. Great. Thankfully, it's not in our location, but we are very much surrounded. Agnes draws. Locked door, which goes to the location with the most clues. It'll be the library. Revelation, attached to the location with the most clues and without a locked door attached. The attached location can't be investigated. Action, test Combat 4 to break down the door or Agility 4 to pick the locks. If you succeed, discard locked door. And then coming out of Agnes's encounter card, we'll do her ritual with the Arcane Initiate. Action 1, or card 1, Heirloom of Hyperborea. Did I shuffle this? Action, or card 2. Drawn, I might not. Action 3, card 3. Another copy of Shriveling. That's the only thing I can take, so I will. Right. We are in a very tight spot, folks. Anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. Our first investigator will be... First investigator this round, I think, will be... Carolyn. And we'll start at her play area. So we averted total catastrophe for the most part on that turn. But action 1, well, now we got to try to heal some of the damage. We'll play Emergency Aid and heal Carolyn for 2 damage. Action 2, she'll draw a card. Carolyn will draw. Drawn to the Flame. Now we get these Drawn to the Flames coming up. We couldn't take them with the Arcane Initiate, but now we can take them. Action 3, Carolyn will draw a card. She will draw. Book of Psalms. Well, we're not in a terrible... Well, we are in a pretty terrible spot right now. But anyway, that will do it for Carolyn. We'll move over to Agnes and her play area. Salvaging the scenario is probably going to be a tough go, but we're going to try it. So action 1 probably should be over at the map, actually. So change of plans. We're moving Agnes over to the map. We're over here at the map. Action 1 for Agnes will actually be to move down and engage down to the lounge and engage the Acolyte. Action 2 will use a charge of Shriveling on it. So up, we're up 4, trying to take it out. -3 takes it out, thank God. And then action 3 will move down to the library because we're going to get those clues at the end of the Mythos. We're going to get those clues on our next turn, hopefully. So that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we don't have any hunter. Well, we have the Knight of the Inner Circle who's actually looking for Agnes. So he moves down to the lounge. And then we will reset everything. And we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Carolyn will gain 1 resource, go to 4. Agnes will gain 1 resource, go to 3. Carolyn will draw. Another Eureka, which we saw earlier, and we used to success earlier. Agnes will draw. Eldritch Inspiration. Once again, dead card without the Hypnotic Gaze in the hand. I'm going to take a quick look at Agnes's discard pile here. We have one ward of protection in the deck left. Okay. Alright, just checking that. Mythos phase, Doom goes up to 8 and goes up to 6 on the agenda, 8 in play. Carolyn draws. Centuries of Secrets, Revelation Test Will 5. For each point you fail by, discard the top card of the encounter deck. If a Curse Treachery is discarded by this effect, deal 1 direct damage to your investigator and to each of your ally assets. Perhaps their mysteries are better left unknown. So fortunately, Carolyn isn't just about to bite it, but she is alone, so I'm going to commit her Book of Psalms and her Eureka to get her up to even. Because this will run the encounter deck out of cards if we fail by too much. So we are at even. A 0 actually means we don't do anything with that, so we get to search the top 3 for a card and draw it. So Carolyn will do that. Her first card up is Solemn Vow, which would only be able to go under Agnes's control, but they're apart right now. They're 2 locations apart. Card 2, Soothing Melody, which might be what we take, and First Aid. I think we are going to take the Soothing Melody, though. We're still trying to salvage this campaign. We're still trying to salvage at least this scenario. But I don't like my odds right now. Alright, so coming out of Carolyn's encounter card, we're actually going to exhaust the Arcane Initiate now. Because I want to make sure Agnes can... I want to try to find a ward of protection for Agnes if I can. Just in case we get something that we need to cancel. So card 1, Clairvoyance, not what I want to see. Card 2, Ace of Rods. Card 3, Hallowed Mirror. As much as I want to take the Hallowed Mirror right now, I can't, so I have to take Clairvoyance. Okay, let me just check things here. Oh boy. Alright, we are in deep, deep trouble, to put it mildly here, folks. And we didn't find a ward of protection. We haven't even drawn Agnes's encounter card yet. So yeah, we're still in a world of trouble here. Agnes draws. Centuries of Secrets. Uh-oh. We're at... Okay, so Carolyn just had this, and we're at even. Is there any will that I want to commit to this? I gotta use my Eldritch Inspiration and Drawn to the Flame. Yeah, I can't fail this. So, I've got to commit these to go up 2. Because I don't want to discard anything from the encounter deck and risk hitting a curse. Because hitting a curse means Agnes takes another physical trauma, and Carolyn is going to be hurting, to put it mildly. Tentacle touched. Not the time, Agnes. Okay, so we discard the top 5 of the encounter deck, which means we discard the top 3. If we hit a curse, Agnes is defeated by damage, and yeah. So let's find out what we hit. Card 1 is a Scheme. Card 2 is the Wizard of the Order, which I'm not sorry to see discarded. Card 3 is a Curse, which means Agnes is defeated by damage. There's Agnes. She doesn't have clues to drop, but she does drop her keys on her location. Oh boy. And then Carolyn takes 2 horror from Evil Past running out. So these got discarded as well. Centuries of Secrets would be in the deck at this point. So I'll shuffle this up, and then Carolyn's Evil Past will not be in the deck. Oy vey. And so Agnes will have taken her third physical trauma. Which means we're up against my house rule now, so I think this will probably wind up being the end of the summer campaign. We're going to wrap it early because the investigators are too busted up to continue. Alright. Then we are at even trying to get rid of... Yeah. We're at even trying to get rid of Evil Past. Rune, oh please. Rune is -3 if you fail, place a doom on the nearest cultist enemy. So Evil Past stays in her threat area, and we'll put another doom on the Knight of the Inner Circle. So we are at 9 doom on the agenda. Carolyn, actually we're at 9 doom in play. Carolyn's turn is going to be very simple. She's going to action 1, move over to the Lodge Cellar, make friends with the Acolyte. Action 2, she's going to take an attack of opportunity of 1 damage to move to the Lodge Gates. And at action 3, she's going to resign. So better than sustaining another trauma. But anyway, now... So Agnes has suffered a 3rd physical trauma. So now, let's go ahead and wrap the scenario. There should be a no... Oh, hang on. Forgot I jacked the volume all the way down. Okay. Hang on.
If no resolution was reached, each investigator resigned or was defeated. You managed to escape the building and flee on foot. As you run, you can hear a thunderous rumble coming from the manor. Several others burst through the front door behind you, too preoccupied to notice you. One yells to her companions, "Get out and gather at the unvisited aisle. We have to perform the binding rite with or without the device." "What about the guardian?" a man at the gates asks. "It's no use," she replies. "Just go." That is when the screaming begins. A spray of blood splatters against the basement window. Those who escaped immediately panic and flee. You don't stop or look back. You run until the building has faded behind the dense gray mist, until you can no longer hear the screams of those inside, until your legs can barely move. Is this the kind of sacrifice the Silver Twilight Lodge believes in making? And if so, what does this mean for the binding rite they seek to complete at the unvisited aisle? In your campaign log, record the Guardian of the Trap emerged. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of each card in the victory display. Skip Interlude 3, the Inner Circle, and proceed directly to Scenario 6, Union and Dissolution.
So yeah, that was another big fat goose egg that we earned for experience in this scenario. But I don't really mind that too much because here, I think this is where we wrap the summer campaign. So Agnes is already busted up with 3 physical and a mental trauma. So next week we will actually have the outro. Actually, during the week, sometime this week, we'll have the outro video for the campaign. And then next week, I'll debut one of the bigger games in the Arkham Files on the channel. I don't know if it's going to be Arkham Horror 2nd Edition or Eldritch Horror yet. I haven't decided that yet. But you'll find out when I put the video up. Thank you for watching this video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.